So I recently finished reading the book Elon Musk that was written by Walter Isaacson, and I'm working on doing a full-blown podcast on the book to cover Elon Musk's life and everything that he went through from a business perspective and how we might be able to take the things that he learns and apply them towards our business. And there was one concept that really stood out to me, and it was his algorithm on manufacturing. So I thought I would just take a moment to talk about this algorithm. I'm going to read directly from the book how the algorithm goes, and then just add a couple of thoughts around it as we move along here. To start off, there's a little background or commentary, if you will. At any given production meeting, whether at Tesla or SpaceX, there's a non trivial chance that Musk will intone like a mantra what he calls the algorithm. It was shaped by the lessons he learned during the production hell surges at the Nevada and the Fremont factories. And the book does a really good job of detailing the hell that they went through. Elon Musk was sleeping in the factories in Nevada, I believe it was. He was sleeping on the roof of the factory, and he also had a desk right in the mix with everyone else and was constantly on the floor learning these lessons. Musk says, I became a broken record on the algorithm, but I think it's helpful to say it to an annoying degree. And it has 5 elements, if you will. First, question every requirement. Each should come with the name of the person who made it. You should never accept that a requirement came from a department, such as from the legal department or from the safety department. You need to know the name of the real person who made the requirement. Then you should question it, no matter how smart that person is. Requirements from smart people are the most dangerous because people are less likely to question them. Always do so, even if the requirements came from me. Then make the requirements less dumb. So constantly, Musk is always questioning requirements. He does that nonstop. And that was one of the things he would often drive his engineers crazy about, is just pestering the living snot out of them in regards to the requirements. Where did they come from? Is it really needed? Why is it here? Just on and on and on. Question the requirements. The second thing is to delete any part or process you can. You may have to add them back later. In fact, if you don't end up adding back at least 10% of them, you didn't delete enough. I think that is personally my favorite. If you look at anything, there's so many parts that are required. And a lot of times, Elon would discover that there was so much unnecessary stuff, especially that went into rocket engines, where he was able to simplify and delete parts. Now, they did have to add them back occasionally, but in general, delete, delete, delete. Now, the third step of the algorithm is to simplify and optimize. And this obviously comes after step 2. And he says a common mistake is to simplify and optimize a part or process that should not exist. So that makes sense. Get rid of anything that you don't need, and then simplify and optimize. The fourth step is to accelerate cycle time. Every process can be speeded up, but only do this after you have followed the first 3 steps. In the Tesla factory, I mistakenly spent a lot of time accelerating processes that I later realized should have been deleted. And I like the fact that Musk is willing to admit his mistakes. As you're reading the book, you'll see many times when he admits his mistakes. And he does so openly. He doesn't try to hide them. He just says, yep, that was a mistake. I was wrong. Done. Moving on. He learns the lesson. He moves forward. I think that's valuable for us too. If you don't admit your mistakes, then you're trying to hide them or trying to cover up for them. And that prevents you from moving forward, my friend. Now, the 5th step in the algorithm is to automate. And this comes last. And again, here's another mistake. He says, a big mistake in the Nevada and at Fremont was that I began by trying to automate every step. We should have waited until all the requirements had been questioned, parts and processes deleted, and the bugs were shaken out. And that was true. When he was going through production hell, he would literally go through the plant and look at every station, and he would make a determination if it should be done by a human or by a machine. And at one of the plants, he ended up ripping out like 50% of the automated machines and doing the work with human hands because it was faster and more efficient to do so. So that is the 5 steps of the algorithm. Question every requirement, delete parts that aren't necessary, simplify and optimize, accelerate your cycle times, and then automate where necessary. Now, he goes on to say that the algorithm is sometimes accompanied by a few corollaries, and I think these are interesting too. I just wanted to go through them real quick. I think they add additional context to Musk's thinking right here. He says that technical managers, they should have a hands-on expertise. For example, software managers should be spending 20% of their time coding. Solar roof managers should be spending their time on the roof doing the installs. So he's saying that the leaders need to be getting their hands dirty, understanding the actual work. In his view, this is like a cavalry leader that can't ride a horse, or a general who is not able to use a sword or gun, maybe in that case. Now, this is an interesting concept. It's a little bit different from my original thinking, but he says camaraderie is dangerous and it makes it hard for people to challenge each other's work. There's a tendency not to want to throw a colleague under the bus. That needs to be avoided. It's okay to be wrong. And I can understand his thinking there that we should always be questioning everything and challenging one another. For Musk, this concept works really well in his businesses, obviously, as he's been extremely successful. He goes on to say, just don't be confident and wrong. Never ask your troops to do something you're not willing to do, which I certainly agree with. And I think that gains us a lot of credibility as leaders. Then he goes on to say, whenever there are problems to solve, don't just meet with your managers. Do a skip level where you meet with the level right below your managers. And I like the skip level concept because you can get the scoop straight from the people who are actually doing the work. Those are the folks who generally have the best ideas about how to make improvements or remove processes or streamline things or drive for efficiencies. And then the next is around hiring. We've spoken about this several times before. He says, when hiring, look for people with the right attitude. Skills can be taught. Attitude changes require brain transplant. A maniacal sense of urgency is our operating principle. The only rules are the ones dictated by the laws of physics. Everything else is a recommendation. And I'll leave it there. There is a link down below for the book if you'd like to pick up a copy for your library at home. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. Thank you for listening. Until next time, make it a beautiful day in the neighborhood, my friend.